Hey, what is up guys? Kolst here. So exciting times in Arena as the new rotation has been announced as part of patch 21.0, which is the release of United and Stormwind next week. So the big news is that there will be a rotation on August 3rd, as it says right here. And this is a big one because this is the biggest rotation that we've had in over a year, I believe. Generally speaking, the rotations have been mostly standard, and since Ashes of Outland, and Skullman's Academy have not rotated out, but this is for the first time since those sets release that they're rotating out. As we can see, the sets are here: United and Stormwind, Forged in the Barrens, Wailing Caverns, Madness at the Darkmoon Fair, Darkmoon Races, and 3 wild sets, which are the Witchwood, Saviors of Uldum, and Rastakhan's Rumble. In this video, we are going to talk about the cards rotating in with, and I'll have another video, I believe, talking about the cards rotating out between the wild sets, which I'll actually point to another video, and the cards rotating out from those 2 sets, Ashes of Outland and Skullman's Academy. So with that, let's get right into these new sets. So we'll start here with we'll start with the oldest set, the Witchwood. So this is we're starting at the bottom. Witchwood was quite some time away. I forget exactly. Was this like 2016, something like that? And by the way, we have Twitch chat here. Say hello, Twitch. Say hello, YouTube Twitch chat. But if you want to, you don't have to. Say whatever you want. Well, not whatever you want, but within reason, of course. Witchwood we'll probably go over pretty quickly because I'll try to focus on cards that I think will actually have impact, right? And the thing is that this is a really old set, and power creep is a thing, so there are not a lot of really good cards in this set, so we'll go over this one relatively quickly. Like, compare this to like Meeting Stone, for example. This is a 2-mana spell, add 3/2/2 Treants, which don't really do anything special. There's some Treants energy, but probably not that's actually even in this set, so it's like there's just a lot of these cards are just, not very good anymore, right? So some of these cards are okay though, like Drew the Scythe. This card's pretty good. Either, it's a 3-mana 4/2 rush or 2/4 taunt. That's not terrible, right? But these are like, this is like gonna be some of the decent cards. There's a lot of, some of these are some like control-y cards. Witching Hour is a very combo oriented card, but generally, frankly, just not a lot here. Hunter, that was Druid. We're gonna go class by class. This is Hunter. Mastiff is okay. It's just a little expensive. The Echo keyword is back. Don't know what Echo is. It's repeatable the turn you play it. And copies can't cost less than 1, so you can't just do like infinite stuff. But that usually doesn't matter. Yeah, so you can play up to 5 of these per turn is what that means if you want to spend 10 mana. So Mastiff it's expensive, but it always was expensive, but Echo is a way to get a bunch of value out of stuff. Otherwise, this was always a weird card. Dire Frenzy's in core, so we already have that in the game. Wing Blast's a pretty good one. Deal potentially 1 mana, deal 4 to a minion. Pretty good. Carrion Drake actually is a pretty solid card. 5 mana 3/7 poison, assuming that you can have a minion die on your turn, which is pretty easy to do. Generally, minions tend to die a lot in this game now. Shaw's actually pretty good too. This was a really good Hunter set now that I'm remembering this. Hunter got a lot of really good cards. They also have this thing, which is basically an Assassinate. Not crazy, but not terrible, right? And Emerus is like it's a legendary, but you could get off Dragon Discover sometimes, and it was a very strong win condition sometimes. Moving on to Mage. Snap Freeze is already in the game. Archmage Argal, if you can play this and draw a bunch of cards, is a lot of value, but generally speaking, not too much that's super impactful here. Keysmith is alright, I guess. Cinderstorm's okay. There's some Elemental. I guess there's enough Elementals in the game right now that Bonfire Elemental will often be 5 mana 5/5 draw card, but like, 5 mana 5/5 draw card is just like a normal card now, so it's not even that crazy, but it's pickable. And then, oh man, Toki's coming back. Interesting. Moving on to Paladin. Hidden Wisdom's usually not very good as far as that. Rebuke isn't really worth it in Arena typically. Sound the Bells was pretty impactful back in the day, but yeah, it's like, it definitely seems like this would be a little too weak now. That was a really impactful card back in the day, but it's probably just too weak now. Otherwise, really not much. I guess Glass Knight, this is a legendary, you didn't see it a lot, but it's a 4-mana 4/3 Divine Shield, which isn't terrible, right? You can theoretically get Divine Shield again, but I don't even know if I've ever seen that happen, to be honest. Charge is okay, I guess. And Silver Sword, this is a pretty impactful card. So basically, it was one of those really big, impactful win conditions to be aware of. It gives, you know, repeated buffs to your entire board. It's slow, but it will create a lot of value over time. So probably not as game-winning as it used to be, because there's just crazier things you can do than just, you know, buffing your board a couple times. But, you know, it's still going to be a card you'll see. Next, we have Priest. Camellios. Finally counterplay to Ysera. You get to steal your opponent's Ysera. Oh dear. Otherwise, I don't know. Not too many cards that are super impactful in this list. Squashling was pretty good back in the day, but again, this is gonna feel pretty weak now. If you just want to, you know, heal yourself for 10, that would often be like one of the big things. You could tempo this to heal stuff, but it's going to be slow by modern standards. Holy Water, same thing. You know, the Initiation is basically a way better version of this. This is 1 mana cheaper, but you actually have to spend mana on whatever you steal, so it's usually a lot worse, but, you know, probably not unpickable. Otherwise, not too much. Matriarch was a kind of super win condition as well back then, but again, kind of slow nowadays, so even then it was kind of slow, so moving on to Rogue. Cheap Shot was pretty impactful. This, again, has Echo. You get to deal just a bunch of damage. You could remove a lot of stuff if you really wanted to. Demon Hunter basically has a 1-mana version of this, though, which is a lot better. This thing, you don't have to actually kill the minion, so you can just, you know, you can Cheap Shot the same thing 4 times. That's what you would do a lot, but again, it's really slow. A lot of these Echo cards are just going to be really slow. Talking about cards that are really slow, Pickpocket. That card was, like, too slow back then. It's going to be way too slow now. But, that won't be too slow. Blink Fox. Blink Fox was always pretty good. 3 mana, 3/3. Add a random card to your hand from your opponent's class. Some of that stuff's going to be in. Dude, they really like Echo and Rogue, didn't they? Base Collector also adds a random legendary. You could add multiple legendaries to your hand potentially, so that could be really good. But yeah, otherwise not too much that's super, super impactful. This card would be pretty good. Sometimes you wouldn't have a combo in the thing, and that'll still be the case. Sometimes you won't even have a combo card to draw, which makes this card a lot worse. But it could be pretty good. And yeah, otherwise, about it for Rogue. Let's move on to Shaman. Shaman really doesn't have a lot here. They have Angler. If you have Murloc synergy, it could be pretty good, but especially again by repeating myself, by modern standards, all these Echo cards are going to be way too slow to really feel good, probably. Otherwise, I mean, Zap's okay. This was one of the first, like, 1-mana discovered, huh? It's alright. Otherwise, really not too much that's going to be super impactful for Arena here. I guess Earth and Might. There is a fair number of elementals. You can even tutor elementals out your deck, so this might be pretty good. That'd be something to definitely be aware of, but otherwise, you know, nothing too crazy here. Next we have Warlock. Really not a ton here that was really impactful. I guess Curse of Weakness is like a really, really bad version of, you know, the 1-mana Paladin pre-spell that does the exact same thing. But it would be good sometimes. It could still be good sometimes, but really not much here. Probably the best thing here. Oh, Godfrey's here. Okay, well, this card is I'm sure this card is still really good. This was one of the best cards in the game at the time. It's basically a Twisting Nether on a stick a lot of the time, so Godfrey will be extremely good. But this card's already in the game, and Dark Possession is probably really the only other really good card here. I guess these self-damage cards might be pretty good because there is more ways. You can actually curve straight into this with the 2 mana 2/5 that damages your hero per attack. So that might be a thing actually. But yeah, not too much. And then Warrior is the last class on the list. They have a lot of. There's actually a pretty good set for Warrior. They had a bunch of rushes. Some of these rushes, like this card is actually a neutral with tradable in the recent set. So yeah, it's not like it's terrible, but yeah. A lot of these just aren't gonna be super crazy anymore. These are like decent as well. You can draw rush minion, that's pretty good. Axe is okay, but the biggest card here, as I keep mousing over, is Warpath. This is probably the most impactful card coming back. This might be the most impactful card out of this entire set, to be honest. Just a card you're going to see a lot of, you know, just kind of a two-side board clear. It's very expensive, but sometimes when you're a control deck, you just don't care as long as you can kill stuff. So yeah, that was one of the most impactful ones probably from this set. There were a few, but... And then otherwise we're gonna go over the neutrals. So especially back then, like they were pretty conservative with neutrals. There are some like vanilla cards, like, you know, Leech is okay, Pixie's okay, Amalgam's okay, Marsh Drake was usually pretty bad. Phantom Militia is coming back though. This thing you could play just to get a whole bunch of taunts on turn 9, ideally. But otherwise, I mean, there's a lot of stuff, like interesting cards here. I don't want to go over them too much, but just a bunch of like kind of vanilla-ish cards that just give you other stuff. Voodoo Doll was an interesting card actually. You choose a minion and then if you ping it off yourself, you destroy it. Aug Merchants will be rotating out. If this card was in with Aug Merchants, it would be pretty nuts. But I mean, it still wouldn't be that nuts. Like 3 mana Assassinate isn't even that good anymore. It's still good, but yeah, not too much here. Just a lot of stuff that's roughly vanilla. Actually, Swift Messenger is really interesting. Depending on which turn you had it, it was either a 6/2 or a 2/6, something that could be frustrating. But this was a really interesting card at the time because you would actually be thinking about, you know, based off of which turn they drew the cards in their hand, whether or not it was in their opening hand, whether they were likely to have a 6/2 or a 2/6 on specific turns. It was actually very interesting. There's another Secret Hate card coming back. Some good taunts actually, some relatively slow but potentially really good taunts. Mossy Horror is coming back. That's pretty significant as well. So I'm kind of anti-aggro mass board clear for control decks. And not too much as well. Oh, Deranged Doctor is actually coming back. So there's the new set also has the new Deranged Doctor as well. That's kind of funny. The reskin of Deranged Doctor is actually coming back. I didn't realize that. That's kind of funny. And Royal Guard as well, which could sometimes... this one was very impactful, whether or not you got a 8/3 or a 3/8. Should be another thing. It was a little frustrating sometimes when you really wanted the 8 damage to kill something like a Deranged Doctor, but it was just the wrong turn, you know? But yeah, pretty cool. There's actually more from this. Oh, even Worgen Abomination's a pretty interesting card. This thing's a little slow probably now, but that was another interesting one. But yeah, actually a lot more from this set than I realized. I thought this set was weaker, but it wasn't too weak. Let's move on next to Rastakhan's Rumble. So Rastakhan's Rumble, we already have Pounce in the game. We need Twin Tyrant. No. We'll probably get Twin Tyrant back relatively soon though. So the spirits were in this set. These were like cards that were basically kind of like totems or something, which you know, usually weren't too impactful from Arena. There's some, they kind of did a failed thing in this where they had some like attack with hero synergies that were really an unimpactful card, and this was also the set with Overkill. So a lot of cards that weren't too good here. Some of these cards are okay, but they're just kind of slow, you know? And a lot of like weird combo-y stuff for Druid in this set. Lodi was interesting. There were like 4 different, you know, things. Oh, that's the version if you actually have the choose one, choose all legendaries. This would be like a 4/2 rush or a 1/2 poison stealth usually. But yeah, not too much here. This might be a bit better because if you do have pounce, this card gets pretty good. But I mean, usually it's a 2-mana 2/3. Let's just move on to Hunter. Hunter Springpaw is a little slow now, I guess, but this card was always pretty nice. Generally, it's just like this is a bit worse generally than now. You have the 1-mana. You basically have the card, the spell that basically does the same thing as this for 1 mana instead of 2. You have Hatchet, which can be a 2/3 weapon. Which is this in? This is in standard too, right? I think that's also in standard actually. That's in core. Otherwise, not super crazy stuff here. Baited Arrow was pretty significant at the time. This thing has kind of gotten power crept past. I mean, at the time, this was kind of like a better. I think you would have said it was like, if anything, maybe a better fire elemental. But now, it's probably especially now that fire elemental got buffed, this is like a way worse fire elemental, but it's still good, right? It's either 3-face or deal 2, summon a 5/5 for 5 mana. Indeed, you could overkill face and get the beast. That is true. That is very true and very, very important. But otherwise, not much here. Hero cards won't be in. Vol'jin would be important, but they should not be in. Then next we have Mage. So Mage is actually going to be even more hero power synergy, which is interesting, but most of those cards were not very impactful. I mean, Pyromaniac just being a 3-mana 3/4, pretty good. And a lot of times you could draw off it. So that's one to be aware of. Arcanosaur probably shouldn't be a card you see too often, but I mean, you would always get wrecked by this when you least expected it. So that's a card to be aware of, I guess. Another card to be aware of is Blast Wave. So again, assuming they fix the epic bug, you probably won't see this too often unless it's discovered, but this would be a way that if you can get a bunch of 1 health minions and then Blast Wave, you get a million mage spells in hand, which is pretty, or if you can use this with spell damage somehow, then it could, you can do work. That was probably the easier way, was to use it with spell damage. Yes, this is rotation is arena only. And Scorch can sometimes be 1 mana deal 4. It's just one of those things, there's going to be a lot of elemental synergy. Wasn't there elemental synergy in Witchwood too? There was, right? So there's going to be even more elemental synergy than there is right now in Mage. I feel like I keep saying that. They really like putting elemental synergy, don't they? Oh yeah, you can actually get a Ragnaros as well. Which Analai. Yeah, interesting cards. Oh yeah, and they have like a super value legendary too. If you can discover a mage minion, you might be able to get that. A lot of interesting stuff. And Splitting Image as well, which is a card to definitely be aware of. So Splitting Image and Water Elemental Secret are both going to be in, right? So you're going to want to go face even more against mage than you already do. Easy smork. So next we have Paladin. Honestly, I'm looking at all these cards. Like almost every card in this set is not good. As long as is Shieldbreaker, or is it, what is it, Platebreaker? Is Platebreaker in the game? No. Okay. There's a card that destroys your enemy's armor. So assuming that card is not in, which I believe it's not, this card is just a 3-mana 3/4. It enables you to heal your hero, right? So this one, so that's just a legendary though. But otherwise, like, not much. Battle Axe is one of the best cards in this set. So just to have, like, the potential to hand buff a bunch of stuff, although this card's a bit slow, especially by modern standards. But otherwise, like, a lot of just synergy-based stuff that you just generally wouldn't get value out of most of the time. Restoring 10 health seems... Maybe that's easier now, but that's pretty hard to do. A new Challenger, I guess, is fine, because you get, like, a 6-mana... Divine Shield taunt. You can get like an ogre with taunt, Divine Shield probably, pretty good. But you could whiff as well. So not the strongest set from Paladin here. Priest is next. Seance you can use on enemies. So if you have this card you can automatically beat Ysera because you just seance the Ysera. Oh no, this is gonna be common, isn't it? Oh no. Okay. That's gonna be a thing. But otherwise, not too much in this set, actually. The other most impactful card here is probably the Mass Hysteria, which I was kind of expecting this card would come back in the rotation, and yes, it has. So, I guess, Priest is losing a lot of board clears, but they are gonna have Hysteria and Mass Hysteria, right? So, that will be a thing to, how do you play around? You don't, right? Yeah. But they're losing like Psychic Scream, they're losing are they losing Soul Mirror? They're losing Soul Mirror, right? I hope so. Now let's move on to Rogue. Rogue is interesting. They have Walk the Plank because it used to be that you actually had to put a condition on a 4-mana Assassinate for it to be a card. Now 4-mana Assassinate is just a card, but you know. Walk the Plank is also going to be in, which is interesting. Just have a more conditional Assassinate. Serrated Tooth was really interesting at the time because this is basically a delayed broom, which you could trigger it immediately by daggering. Sometimes you would have to do that, but yeah, I don't know. This is probably worse than broom. Is this worse than broom? Probably. I don't know, to be honest. Because like sometimes you would just play this, you'd be really happy a lot of times to play this on one and then you get like a super dagger and then you also get the rush later. It could be really good sometimes, but I feel like a lot of times you would just rather have broom. But raiding party, there's gonna be a lot of pirates. There's a lot of pirates being added actually to Rogue, so they're coming back with raiding party. So that could be something. You can potentially get 2 pirates and a weapon for 3 mana. Pretty good, pretty good. Grawl is a fun card. Eat a minion in your deck. Why do they eat from your deck? She eat from the opponent's deck. There were meme decks with this card, which are hilarious. But otherwise, not too much otherwise. Moving on to Shaman. Shaman gets Totemic Smash. This card doesn't seem very good anymore. It was never really that good. It's either deal 1, summon a totem, or deal 2. It's pretty underwhelming, to be honest. Ooh, there's gonna be even more Overlord synergy with Lickum. Nice. Otherwise, Haunted Visions was an interesting card. You'd have to like replay it though. I don't know. Not too much here. I guess maybe the most significant card coming back is Reign of Toads, which was like the original, much weaker version of Eye of the Storm. And it was so expensive, like 9 mana for this. You remember this card was OP for a while and constructed, right? But in Arena usually not. Or next we have Warlock. Warlock is Grim Rally. It's coming back. Shriek is coming back. Pretty good one. This card, if you a 3 mana 2/6 doesn't even feel like this thing was never really worth a discard for. Not terrible, but wouldn't really feel super happy about it. There is actually some discard synergy, so you can get the cards back that you discarded. That's a thing. Sapper was a way to randomly close out games if you just have like a bunch of imps on the board and then you just trade them all off. That was interesting. And then Demon Bolt is interesting. So if you get a really wide board, which there are ways to do, there's ways to get like a bunch of demons on the board. You can get a really, really cheap Assassinate this way, basically. This card's probably going to feel, the thing back then was really impactful, a lot more because it was just in a low bucket. So you would pick it in its bucket a lot. But especially now, like, this probably isn't going to feel super worth it. Because it's just a little too conditional. Right? But you can also play 8 mana do nothing. That's another card coming back. There's that as well. Alright. And then Warrior is the last class on the list. Devastate is a pretty good card. One you can want to think about probably. Dragon Roar. is a way to randomly generate a Ysera. One of the this card probably aged pretty well, honestly. This thing's probably this thing might be better. Probably is better than it was, actually. Because I always, at the time, I thought this card was honestly kind of overrated. But like this thing, I mean, just there's a lot less bad dragons. There's a lot more really, really good dragons. So this thing is probably better now than it was. And most people auto-picked this card before. So this thing is probably nuts. Yeah. Oh yeah, you also have a legendary to copy all the dragons in your hand. Oh no. Yeah, and they had a good survivability dragon as well. You have the dragon synergy, and Sultra is a way to this thing was kind of like, you know, one of those, you know, there's like the demon hunter weapon that kind of does the same thing as this, basically. Kind of the same. This thing is probably slightly worse. I mean, it's a pretty good weapon. Yep. And that's that. And then neutrals. Very impactful cards like Urabashi Chicken, as we see. I think this was one of the sets where they were very conservative with the neutrals, because I remember this being one of the better neutrals at the time. Chinky Ankle Biter, which is basically a 2-mana Aug Merchant. You could get a dragon, or if you have dragons, you can get a Spell Discover potentially. But otherwise, really not super much. Remember when you had to pay? You only got 1 additional stat for 5 health back then, instead of, you know, the 4-mana 5/7 where you get 3, and that's a death rattle that you can silence. This is just a battle cry, and you only get 1 stat for it. Ooh, Grifta I like. This is basically Grifta is basically kind of like the original South Sea Scoundrel. It was a really interesting skill testing card. Scavenger is okay. Scorcher is coming back. That's significant. Otherwise, I don't know. A lot of these cards just, you know, this doesn't really feel super good anymore. Ranger at the time was actually pretty good, but this seems like, I don't know, doesn't feel super good anymore. Moshog Announcer was actually, this thing probably is going to be just as good as it was. This thing was really frustrating. You couldn't always kill this, so sometimes instead of a regular ogre that can't control its attacks, you can't control your ability to kill this. So you could just be an aggro deck and then just play this, and then your opponent would just keep missing it, and then it would just hit your opponent in the face 5 times, and it would be hilarious. Well, for you, not for your opponent, but it would be hilarious for you. And but yeah, some decent neutrals as well. Former Champ's pretty alright, and Amani Warbear was very significant at the time. But again, this was one of those cards that was really significant, honestly, because it was under-bucketed as well. And even then, I felt like it was honestly a little overrated. So honestly, you're probably not even going to see that many of these anymore, because this honestly just doesn't feel like it does enough anymore. If you want a rush, you play Broom or something, right? Like, so I feel like honestly, you won't even see that many of these. It's a common though, you'll see some, but probably won't see a ton of them. And then that's basically it. They also have this really big taunt thing that can die to Mossy Horror. So, you know, there's that interaction actually came back, which is kind of funny. I've had this happen to me enough times that I didn't like picking this card. Is Broom rotating out? Oh yeah, that was Skullamass Academy, wasn't it? I guess so, yeah. Yeah, Broom is rotating out, and then the Rush Augmentant's also rotating out. So, So, yeah, maybe. Yeah. There's way less Rush. I don't know, you still have so much more Rush, you probably can rush other stuff. The thing is that a few other classes are also getting, But anyway, let's just move on to the last set rotating in, which is Saviors of Uldum. Quests are not going to be in. Saviors was pretty recent, so probably the most impactful cards from this set compared to the other 2. So Worthy Expedition to discover a choose 1 card. This card was always a little expensive, because the problem with this is that choose 1 cards are also overpriced generally for what they do. So you'd be discovering an overpriced card and paying a mana to do it. So this probably won't feel that good. Um, Merchant. Again, like it's gonna feel a little slow. Bees was really good though. So you get to remove something, and if you overkill it, you get 1/1s and stuff. Could be very nice. There was some kind of meme Treant cards that were kind of useless. Most of the stuff isn't too good, but Oasis Searcher. Honestly, Oasis Searcher, like at the time, Oasis Searcher was absolutely nuts. It was the thing that you'd be trying to get off the choose one discover, but now, I guess like since there's gonna be way less rush, this thing probably will still feel really good. It's not like a crazy amount of stats. It used to be like this was a crazy amount of stats, right? To get like 2 3/3s. That was crazy back then, but and it's still gonna be good. It's probably just not gonna feel like nuts, right? Some cards that will feel nuts though. Desert Spear. Desert Spear at the time was amazing. Still gonna be amazing. It's just the flexibility. This is like 3 mana deal 6, and the ability that you can be 100% flexible with it was always really good. Hunter's Pack is still a really efficient ability to draw. The only thing with Hunter's Pack is like secrets and Hunter Beasts aren't always that good, so you know, sometimes you wouldn't get the best stuff off this, but you know, it's like the warrior card that's like effectively the same thing, right? So next one, Rastakhan Wild Tamer was the ability to get some, and back in the day, like this would be like a win the game play to copy a beast with this thing, but now it's like that's not gonna feel nearly as dominant. But you know, 3 mana 4/3 with potentially a card draw is still really good. This is in core. Swarm of Locusts, a little expensive for what it was, but you know, just the ability to get a bunch of 1/1s. There's like better versions of this card in the game now, obviously. For 1 additional mana, you get a second wave. You're a Demon Hunter. But still, there's some synergy in Hunter for just having a bunch of beasts die, so this thing is not going to be useless for sure. This was a card that you would lose the game with sometimes when you'd pull a poison. And of course, you can get 7 mana King Crush. Okay. Moving on to Mage. There was some, this was like all the secret synergy. Ooh, Flame Ward is coming back as well. And I enjoyed not having to play around Flame Ward and... Oh, wait, that's... Oh, no. Oh, you know what I just realized? Oh, no. Splitting Image, Water Elemental Secret, and Flame Ward are all in at the same time. Oh no. Oh no. You literally can't play around everything. It's impossible. Oh no. This is a disaster. Oh. Oh jeez. And they're gonna be in with all of these. Oh. All of these synergies too. This is actually terrifying. Oh, I'm just gonna end Puzzle Box. Oh no. Mage is going to be unpleasant. Yeah. Mage is not going to be pleasant to play. They still have like all the elemental stuff with Grand Finale too, right? Oh man. Oh, Mage is going to... I'm not going to enjoy playing as Mage. Oh. Okay, let's move on. Let's try to forget about this. Uldum, they have like a Brazen Zealot, one of the super snowballing 1-drops potentially. And Og Merchants are out. So this thing is gonna live. That could be terrifying. Oh yeah, the Reborns are back. We haven't seen a Reborn yet. Yeah. This is the first Reborn we've seen. So Reborn, if you don't know what Reborn is, Reborn, a minion resurrects with 1 health first time it dies. I guess most people know Reborn probably because it's in Battlegrounds because of this card. What's up, Adam? But yeah. This card usually didn't feel super strong though, because you wouldn't get the buff a lot of the time. Finley was actually like a win condition back in the day. Still probably will be sometimes, but yeah. Probably won't feel as strong as it used to. It used to be if you had active Finley, you would on turn 2 you actually just won. I don't think it'll be that way anymore. But yeah. Otherwise, a lot of these cards, I don't know, Subdue's pretty good, but a lot of these cards are just kind of, they're kind of poor stats now for what they do. Pharaoh's Blessing is still definitely gonna be a card you're gonna want to be aware of. Basically, it's a Blessing of Kings and a Divine Shield plus taunt all together. So if you got hit by this card, that was, if someone got a really nasty hit, like you play a 6-drop and then your 2-drop ends up eating your 6-drop, it would be it would be very bad for you. You had to definitely play around that card, and you will probably still have to make sure to play around that card. Moving on to Priest. Priest can give stuff reborn. They have Holy Ripple, which is, could be really good, but probably a bit worse than I mean, it's a mini Holy Nova, right? It's probably a bit worse than Condemn, but you know, still pickable. Penance is there. Psychopomp is just a little bit of a deceivingly powerful card, because if you get basically anything off of this, that's like, even if you get like a 2-drop, this thing's basically vanilla stats. It's actually better. Like if you get like a 3-2, a 3-1 plus a 3-2 plus a 3-1, that's a lot of stats. So this thing's kind of deceptively powerful. And then obviously if you just hit like, you know, something huge, you kind of win. This thing was extremely strong. Reclaimer was another way to, like, you know, you could trigger a reborn with this. So you get, you know, the summon of the reborn, and then you get the minion with reborn back. So yeah, it was, this thing was very powerful as well. Oh, so I was saying they lost, this thing is back too. Is Grave Runes back? I don't think so. No. And then Warbear is okay. It'll probably feel a bit weak now. So let's move on to Rogue. Rogue has Feral Cat. Feral Cat was a very powerful card back in the day. 1 mana, draw, Reborn. Generally, Reborns are pretty good. They're gonna feel, I guess it's not gonna probably be as good anymore because Reborns just aren't as good as they used to be, but these are still pretty good. Reborn's gonna be annoying because you know, Reborn was annoying, and that was because Aug Merchants and stuff didn't exist, and now Aug Merchants again don't exist, so it's gonna be hard to clean up, you know, Reborns. And Broom doesn't exist either, so Reborns are gonna be annoying again. Otherwise, not too much that's super strong. Sapper could kind of work against you sometimes, but it would also be really good sometimes. And then this card was, I always thought Mugger was kind of overrated, to be honest. And especially now, it's going to feel pretty slow, I think. But I don't know. Depends on how good you are at getting random minions from other classes, basically. But yeah, that was always a thing. Oh no. Next we go over Shaman. There's not that much here, honestly. You could potentially get some value out of this, but it was very unlikely. Really, the only cards here that are impactful, well, there's 3 of them. Oh, Earthquake's something you definitely want to be aware of existing. I mean, Shamans blow up boards when they want to, so that's nothing new. They can also transform a board, which is interesting, but there's no Proto Drake anymore, so... And Skyper Colossus is gone too, I believe, so... Not sure what you're even going to want to be hitting with this, to be honest. But the most impactful cards here are Sandstorm Elemental, which is just a really efficient early clear. It's honestly a little expensive now, to be honest, to pay 3 mana for this, but, you know, still pretty good. And, of course, Evil Totem, which was one of the most original oppressive snowball cards. Because lackeys, there's not a lot of lackey synergy, but there are a couple lackey generators. And this is one of the best ones. So Evil Totem is potentially... it will win games. That's what Evil Totem does. Yeah, like Evil Genius isn't back though, so not all of the lackey stuff is here, but just some of it. So talking about Warlock, Plague of Flames is a card you want to be aware of the existence of. Can't always really play around this, but you know, you have to keep in mind that there is risk if you ignore a bunch of 1/1s. It's just not much you can really do about it a lot of the time. You kind of just expect them to not have this. They do have the ability to discover a lackey, but even then this card was a little slow. It's going to feel even more slow now. There's actually more self-damage synergy here. The Thrasher and the Disease Vulture, which is pretty crazy. This is another one of those cards, like how Rogue had the Assassinate that only hits undamaged minions. This one is one that shuffles 3 imps into your deck, which can be really bad sometimes. It also ruins Highlander effects, so I don't think they're Highlander cards. But yeah, some card you may have to take sometimes just because it's an Assassinate. And again, one of the really impactful cards of this set was Rift Cleaver, because it was a 6-mana 7/5 that with an Assassinate attached to it. You take some damage, but you pretty much in almost any situation, unless you're literally going to die to the damage, you'd be very happy to take the damage to swing with this card, because you're really only giving up 1 stat for the effect. So this card was very, 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 very powerful and should still be very powerful. Moving on next to the last class, Warrior. There's a lot of taunt synergy here, actually. Frightened Flunky was a way to get a taunt that discovered taunt. It was also, I'm pretty sure they confirmed that this card was actually one of the reasons, like, probably the biggest reason that they actually made the discover change. It used to be, for anyone that's new, it used to be able to discover, cards used to be able to discover themselves, and this is one of the reasons why you can't do it anymore. They made that change, I think it was largely because of this card, because when this thing would discover itself, it was annoying and constructed. It was really annoying. Yeah, they have this card, which used to be a 2/2. They buffed this to a 3/3, and basically any damaged minion can mean you lose the game. Livewire Lance, one of the best lackey generator cards. Restless Mummy, at the time, one of the best rush minions ever printed. Still probably still an above average rush minion by modern standards. This also has, you can get like instant damage synergy out of this too. Armagadillo, a bunch of snowbally taunt stuff. Plague of Wrath, ability to mass board clear, big taunt, and big minion that heals you. So yeah, this was one of those like historically good sets, actually, this Warrior set, because they just got like so many good things here. Yeah, that's all the classes. Just go over the neutrals. So Mermy was decent. There's a lot of like especially by modern standards, this is again like a 2-mana Aug Merchant. You see a lot of things like this. There's a lot of like neutral cards. There weren't too many things that were super impactful. I guess some of the most impactful ones here. Ritualist. Haven't actually had this kind of effect in a while. So yeah, this thing can, again, like anytime you leave up any big minion, can generate a crap ton of value. Quicksand Elemental can also generate a bunch of value trades, although it's sometimes a little difficult to really pull off, but that was very high potential as well. You can also rich list your injured Tolvir. You can also do it on the 4-mana 5/10 as well. This is going to be a really good card. I mean, it always was really good. It's probably going to feel even better now. You can also use this with Reborns as well, so this thing, like, is going to have a crazy number of hits. Blade Master's in too, jeez. Berserker was really good and underrated at the time. Just a lot of decent, like, 3-drops. Zephyrs. Oh, I said there were no Highlanders, but Zephyrs is back. Zephyrs, its AI is a little questionable now. It used to be better. They made it worse, I think. But, yeah, so some other good 3-drops. History buff could, like, snowball like crazy sometimes. Bone Wraith was really good. Scoundrel was really good. Actually, there were a lot of really good neutrals in this set. There's also a Mortuary Machine, though, which, as we pointed out, there's one certain card that Shaman has in the new set. Where's Shaman's down here, right? Yeah. Which will get potentially screwed over by Mortuary Machine. So that will be, that completely ruins it, actually. That's gonna be, interesting. Otherwise, yeah, not a lot. A lot of these bigger cards were a lot more, a lot slower. Wrapped Golem was a really, really big, thing. And this card, I would have said, like, this card would probably feel a lot worse if Aug Merchants were in, and like, if With Broom and Og Merchants, this thing would just get eaten up too efficiently, probably. But because those cards are gone, Wrap Golem should still be pretty dominant, actually. And there were a couple impactful legendaries here: Octosari, Siamat, and another big impactful card was the Pitcrocolisk. Pitcroc still should be pretty good. Probably stood the test of time pretty well. It was always a little slow, but I mean, it does what you want in a late game card, right? Just sometimes you just want to deal 5 face damage. Sometimes you just want to kill something, right? But yeah, probably won't be a super premium card anymore, but yeah, it'll still be pickable. Yeah, I would guess that pings are going to be like crazy high value, honestly. You're gonna have to pay more for your pings because you're gonna have to take stuff like you know, you're gonna have to take stuff like Bug Collector again, because there's gonna be so many things that will punish you for not having pings. You probably will have to take them. So yeah, but anyway, yeah, that's gonna be it for the I guess that's it for the video. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more. If you dislike the video, you can dislike it too, because dislikes help the algorithm as well. And you know what else helps the algorithm? Commenting. Commenting is great. So tell me which cards you liked, which cards you are terrified of, and why it is like every mage card in this set. Because yeah, but yeah, thanks a lot again for hanging out as always. And I'm going to, after this, record another video about the cards rotating out from Ashes of Outland and Skullman's Academy. So yeah, thanks a lot again. We'll see you guys next time.